Sunday, what's today? October 5th.
Okay.
So we're going to start with a brief quiz. First of all, I'm Joyce, and we have some people here who haven't been here before or not recently. So why don't we just go around and introduce ourselves? Karen, can you start?
I'm Karen Boak, and I'm going to need to leave here around 10:10 because I'm doing Sunday school.
That's fine. We are used to people coming and going, and that's just fine
I'm
with
just
us.
staying for the long haul. I'm also doing pumpkins.
Oh, you're
Got here. Clothes in my car.
Yeah, an 8:30 person who's just here all day long.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. You were so kind last night.
Well, hooray for you.
John Miller.
Jan Miller.
Beth Gemco.
Lindsay Paris Lopez.
I'm Joyce Fletcher.
I'm John Schoaf.
My name's Molly Soy.
Dawn Polanski.
I'm Richie.
Okay. So I'm going to start with a couple questions for you. Why are we talking about St. Francis today?
Was his birthday yesterday.
His saint day, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what, when you think of St. Francis, what do you think of?
Animals
and the environment.
Prayer of St. Francis.
And the prayer of St. Francis.
I think of the time I played his mother in a church pageant, and I yelled at him for selling his possessions, giving the money away to the poor,
Right.
and voluntary poverty.
Well, then you probably have more knowledge of him than a lot of people because you remember because you played that story.
I mean, when I think of St. Francis, I think of somebody who had like a radical love for people. Like even during the Crusades, like he went over to the Sultan to like negotiate peace.
Uh-huh.
And you know, like all throughout his life, he was always like very understanding and peaceful with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to like move whoever he was talking to or like engaged with, and not like necessarily to convert them to Christianity, but to like move them towards love.
Yeah.
And that was some things that I identify with a lot.
Okay. Molly, I'm going to ask you if you could do me a favor.
Yes,
Can you go into the office
yes.
and the big printer that's right there should have some documents that I pressed print, but then I forgot to take them off the printer. Thank you. Yeah, so St. Francis is one of those saints we've heard about and we have some association with, some more than others, some of us know more than others, but so then my second question is, why am I talking about St. Francis today?
Well, it is a holiday. It is a holiday in the churches that this is considered St. Francis Sunday.
But why me? Why am I talking about St. Francis?
Because like St. Francis, you accept the call to serve.
Okay, thank you. That is, and there we go. And I didn't even pay her to say that because I didn't know much at all about St. Francis other than the animal thing, and I have a statuary of St. Francis with a little bird on his shoulder in my backyard, and you know, and I like St. Francis, but I didn't know much about St. Francis, and yet I'm gonna see if I can get rid of that. Okay, there. Okay. But when we were talking about what we should do for adult formation this fall, it was thought, well, that's close to St. Francis Day, so let's talk about St. Francis, and nobody volunteered, so here I am. And then, as God would have it, last night at Seth and Hannah's wedding, I was sitting next to Lindsay, and as you can tell, Lindsay knows a lot more about St. Francis than I do, and she's like, "Do you want me to help you?" And I'm like, "Yes." So that's why I'm doing it, and why Lindsay is here supporting me, because she's the brains, and I'm just
I'm
operating the machine person.
a friend who wanted to help. We're both the brains and we're both the heart, as are everyone in this room. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit of background of him. So he was born in Assisi, Italy in 1181. So that was a long time ago, right? And yet, 900 years ago, and we're still like really connecting with this saint. So I think that tells us something about him right there. He came from a really wealthy family. His dad was an Italian silk merchant, and his mom was a noble woman believed to be from France. And so although he was named Giovanni at birth, his dad was in France, negotiating business deals. His mother was back in Assisi. She gave birth and named him Giovanni. And when her husband came home, he started calling him Francesco, because it stands for Frenchman or something else that I'm not thinking of right now. And so he became known as Francis. So when he was young, he just lived the life of a young nobleman, doing whatever he wanted. But there are some really interesting stories, even in his youth. And Lindsay was mentioning how she knew about St. Francis from that one story when he was helping his dad sell material in the marketplace, and a beggar came and asked for alms. And that's the story, isn't it, that you were telling me about?
That's a story that perhaps someone else was telling you about.
Well, then I'll continue that story, and you can tell another one. So he was selling this fabric, and this beggar asked for alms, and he at first didn't do anything, and then he started feeling bad, and he just ran from the booth and gave the beggar, ran after the beggar and gave him money, according to the story. And his dad was not pleased with that. In fact, his dad was not pleased with a lot of things that he did, because he chose this life that was very different from how he was raised in wealth. So he joined a military expedition. He thought he'd be a knight. So that was kind of his aspiration. But he was captured and imprisoned for a year, and he fell sick while he was in prison, and that gave him pause to kind of reevaluate his life. But when he was released and went home, he kind of went back to how he had been before. So then he joins the military again, but he had a vision that made him return to Assisi and kind of lose interest in his previous lifestyle. So he began living the life of a beggar and a penitent. There's a story about him having a vision where God told him to help support the church, and he thought of it in financial terms. So he stole some of his father's fabric and sold it and gave the money to the priest at this little church where he'd had the vision.
Called St. Mark?
You wish. But the priest, being a godly man, did not want these ill-gotten gains and threw the coins and didn't accept them. And his father came and got them all, but his father was then so mad at Francis that he like put him in kind of a dungeon sort of space for a while. So you hear that Francis left his family, but when you read about the relationship with his father, it's kind of understandable because they were not on the same wavelength at all. So he soon left his family and his own inheritance just to pursue religious life, and he gathered some followers, and he had a rule of life that was to follow the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ and to walk in his footsteps. And the walk in his footsteps, you may have seen people will, the walk in his footsteps is often used in other places. So he had this group of followers, and they were living lives of poverty and teaching people about Jesus. And so he went and met with the Pope to ask to start a new order, which was kind of the correct way to go about things, because sometimes new orders kind of started, but they could kind of become heretical. And so he kind of went the right way. The Pope felt that he should have more followers before it was a religious order. But then because there was some persecution or something going on, the Pope relented and said, yes, you can be an order. And so the Franciscan order was founded in April of 1210. And so I think this little video that's made for children is really a nice little way to kind of, it's brief, but I think it'll tell you a little bit about him, and we'll hope the sound works.
Welcome to Miracle.
Oh, no, that's not coming through the computer. So, maybe if I make it louder. No,
Are you sharing your screen?
I'm sharing my screen.
And before you share your screen, there's this thing about sharing computer audio that you have to.
Okay, so maybe I do just stop share and share again, and then,
Yeah. Just take a quick look. So share,
okay, share sound.
share sound,
Okay,
and then try that.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's try it now.
Catholic. The story of Saint Francis of Assisi for kids.
No, now it's
Hello. Today, I'm going to tell you an amazing story about a very special man named Saint Francis of Assisi. He loved nature, animals, and helping people. Let's learn about his inspiring life. Early life. A long time ago, in a town called Assisi in Italy, there was a boy named Francis. He was born into a wealthy family and had everything he could ever want. But as he grew older, Francis realized that money and fancy clothes didn't make him truly happy. A change of heart. One day, Francis met a poor beggar. He felt so sad for the man that he gave him all the money he had. From that moment on, Francis started to think differently about life. He wanted to help people, especially those who were poor and unwell. Giving up wealth. Francis decided to give up all his riches and live a simple life. He wore plain clothes and often went without shoes. He wanted to be just like Jesus, helping others and spreading love. Loving animals and nature. Francis loved all of God's creations, especially animals. He believed that animals were his brothers and sisters. There's a famous story about how Francis once tamed a fierce wolf that was scaring a village. He talked to the wolf and made peace between it and the villagers. Preaching to the birds. One day, while Francis was traveling, he saw a large group of birds. He started talking to them, telling them about God's love. Amazingly, the birds stayed quiet and listened to him. People who saw this were astonished and began to believe that Francis was very special. Building churches. Francis wanted to help repair a little church called San Damiano. He heard a voice telling him, "Francis, rebuild my church." At first, he thought it meant the small church building, but later he understood that it meant he should help rebuild the faith of the people. Creating the first Christmas nativity scene. Did you know that Saint Francis created the first Christmas nativity scene? He wanted people to remember the true story of Jesus' birth. So, he set up a live nativity scene with real animals, and it helped people feel the joy and wonder of Christmas. Helping others. Francis and his followers, called the Franciscans, dedicated their lives to helping the poor, the unwell, and anyone in need. They showed that true happiness comes from giving and loving others. Saint Francis legacy. Saint Francis of Assisi taught us to be kind, humble, and to care for all living things. Today, he is remembered as the patron saint of animals and the environment. Every year, on the 4th of October, people around the world celebrate his feast day by blessing their pets and remembering his love for all of creation. Conclusion. So, everyone, remember Saint Francis of Assisi whenever you see a beautiful tree, a cute animal, or someone in need. Try to be kind, loving, and helpful just like he was. Thank you for listening to this story. Have a wonderful day, and always spread love and kindness wherever you go. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel,
Sorry, I'm trying
like
to
this
figure out how to
video,
get out
and
of
share
this.
it with your friend. I'll be uploading more stories like this, so stay tuned.
Escape will work too.
Mhm.
There's a little button at the skull and the crossbones, just press it.
Okay, I'm looking at something else on my screen, which is making me confused, so let me. I don't see a skull and crossbones.
I'm kidding.
Now, did St. Francis get into education? I worked for 2 nuns at the Holy Trinity in Westmont, and they were sisters of St. Francis. And some of the higher education colleges are associated with St. Francis also.
I'm not aware of him being involved in,
Let's learn about his
sorry, I'm
inspiring
trying to-
life.
I'm trying to get
early
out of
life.
this.
A long time ago.
There are other St. Francis's, though.
There are, St.
Yeah.
Francis de Sales and,
Yeah, so it may not be Francis.
You want to get rid of that?
I
Put that X there.
And
well,
they
I
have
didn't
their,
really want to get rid of that, but I want to get back to the
They
Zoom
have a-
thing.
Is
you
that-
know,
Oh, there we are.
they're going at.
It could be that they're embracing
You-
That
you and-
that I don't,
That
that I don't really care about, it's the getting to the next screen, so.
Sharing the screen.
life and
Sharing my screen, and when I go to share the screen again, it just goes back and plays that video instead of minimizing it, and so.
You want to share something here?
And the fact that he taught people all the
There's
time.
nothing
Right,
there.
yeah.
You
No,
know, without
what-
teaching and preaching.
It was there,
It won't.
yeah,
That
stop share.
kind of
Here
makes
comes real
sense
next
too.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
And I said, see, it's, well, let's see. Actually, I think it did close out. Okay, I'm sorry for this.
That's fine.
Now I need to minimize this, like,
I've read several places that St. Francis would not become a priest. He felt not worthy enough to be a priest. So he was more a minister while he was out and about, and that was an interesting anecdote, you know.
I need to
Yeah.
open a browser. and-
He was very humble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, okay, that's where I want it.
And to bring
Open that.
St. Francis teachings into the present. Richard Rohr has done a
Okay,
remarkable
and then I
job.
just, yeah, then I could get the
And-
slides, yeah, that's what I
And
want.
of course,
Okay.
you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And then I can.
And,
start the slides.
he
Oh, I
has a
didn't.
group
Okay.
called, Center for,
Contemplation
Contemplation
and action.
and Action, yes. And it's in Arizona, and it's really a teaching area of how to be loving and open to everyone. He's written The Universal Christ, which is really an amazing book of how God is not captured in a couple of words, you know, he and so many religions all point to God.
He also wrote the foreword to this book, which is The Little Flowers of St. Francis, which is a collection of stories about St. Francis and St. Clare.
Yeah, so we mentioned that he's best known for his love in animals and all of God's creation, and for the prayer of St. Francis, as John mentioned. And then there's also something called Canticle of the Sun, so I printed out the prayer of St. Francis and the Canticle of the Sun so that you can see them, because what you'll see, well, the prayer of St. Francis, I think, is really familiar to all of us.
love handouts.
And
I needed more to this.
and
Yeah, right.
so while we were sitting next to each other last night at Seth's wedding, Lindsay showed me yard signs she had made for her yard.
Well, I made them for a festival that we had to a music festival to celebrate peace and encourage peace, particularly in the Middle East. And so we wanted a peace theme in visuals as well as sound. So so I made the yard signs for that event in particular.
And so I want to show you these yard signs because I think they're so cool.
So
You talk about
okay,
it.
okay. So it's the prayer of Saint Francis. I edited it just slightly, but you'll see where I get to that. Most of these signs are just straight from the prayer of Saint Francis. So, you know, and this is mainly, you know, the music festival was to share Middle Eastern culture in hopes of sowing seeds of peace, and for all the creators, Palestine in particular was on our mind. So the designs on the sides are based on the keffiyeh, which Tim Lovett is wearing one. So the crisscross is fishing nets, and the things that look like olive leaves are olive leaves. And I maybe Tim knows more about the keffiyeh.
Is it Tom?
It's Tom.
It's Tom.
I'm sorry, Tom. Sorry. Maybe you know more about it than I do, but that's,
You got it right.
yeah. And the top sand bottoms, this one just on the bottom, has olive branches, and I tried to make the olives come together in a heart. So it's the first one. I brought a couple in person too, but we'll, yeah, we can get to it.
That's lovely.
Yeah, go ahead. So I just described the pattern. I mean, I don't know, Joyce, if you want me to talk about all of them, or we can just talk about the meaning of the actual
Well, I
word.
think we can talk about what they are saying.
Yeah,
I think that, you know, I love, you know, that it starts, make me an instrument of your peace. But then I think that all of these kind of explain what that means. So you want to talk about where there is hatred, let me sow love.
Where there is hatred, let me sow love. I love how Saint Francis wants to, you know, like Jesus, take the condition of the world where it is most in need, most vulnerable, and most difficult, and turn it on its head. So where there is hatred, let me sow love. I mean, our world tends to fight hatred with hatred, and when I say our world, I want to be especially critical of the log in our own eyes, the government we live, the government that we live under, that we are a part of, but that's anyway.
How do we do this?
How do we sow love where there is hatred? By not answering violence with violence, by trying to understand one another, by trying to see other people's point of view, by helping the most vulnerable, and by not allowing powerful forces to make the most vulnerable scapegoats.
I think that seems especially hard right now. I don't know what others think about that. You know, I think of, you know, a video I saw yesterday of Alderman Jesse Fuentes trying to intercede for a young man who was being taken by ICE, and she asked the ICE agents if they had a judicial warrant, and they just handcuffed her or zip tied her, and you know, did you see that? You read about it? Yeah. And I think she acted She did not do anything to escalate the situation. She just kept asking them, do you have a warrant? And then finally, one of them said, well, we don't need a warrant. So, but in that kind of environment, how do we sow love?
And the things that are going on social media that are coming from high-ranking government officials,
right.
I don't know how to react to that.
We have to name them that they're wrong. This is wrong. Keep doing that. And if we can do it from a place of confidence and not like.
Anger.
Yeah, it's just
And
wrong.
hatred.
It's wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard thing is it's hard not to get emotional and kind of respond. I think when we experience hatred, it's easy to kind of respond in kind, and finding that place where we can respond with love, I think is tricky. Yeah.
And there's another thing too, social media and whatever we say, it's been opinionized so much that we're really not seeing the truth. We're just seeing somebody's opinion of an action that's probably been changed a lot to fit this person's point of view. And that is something that we have to be aware of also, because it so infects our own thinking, and kids and other people that don't look anyplace else for information are so guided by this social media that it has really, it's the only teacher they have. And that's very concerning.
Yeah. Well, let's go on. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Any thoughts about that one?
I was doing a study on Richard Rohr's Divine Dance, and one of the words that we dealt with was reconciliation versus retribution, and how reconciliation is so different. It is, there's always punishment, that has been promised for anything that we've done wrong. But retribution is like cruelty, but reconciliation is working with forgiveness.
And I think this really gets to having that spirit of forgiveness, which is not us. These are hard things, aren't they?
The choices, I'm thinking about where there's injury, sometimes it feels like there's one way. The injury can be mutual, right? So that there's an injury that has affected everybody, and then the pardon is mutual, right? So I think I see that in that.
Yeah.
It's not like you're hurt, so you have to just say, okay, that's all, no problem. I'm not sure that's what it means.
Yeah. And I like the illustrations that Lindsay did on this sign, because the injury, you see the fist, but the pardon, the open hands, and it's such a different response, isn't it? It's like, I want to respond like this, but I'm responding like that.
Many of the injuries that we have in our life is just disagreements with each other. Instead of talking it out, we're pointing our fingers or calling each other names or something like that. Coming to drastic conclusions that weren't there.
Right.
And those are the injuries that have to be forgiven, talked about.
Where there is doubt, faith.
I sometimes wonder, too, and God is almighty, et cetera, but isn't there a point that he might also be frustrated?
I think Jesus showed us that over and over.
Like, you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
You don't hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You go by your own ways. So therefore, maybe we'll go the opposite. and put everybody at each other. And maybe then you'll wake up. Maybe then you'll get your act together. You have the power in your own self to be hostile or to work things out, or to be kind, or to be mean, or to kill, or keep alive.
Well, I think when I read this prayer, I think it's all aspirational, right? It's like in every single situation, we may not pardon when we feel injured. But we may not have faith when we have doubt. And yet it's I think I like that.
Yeah,
I like what it's telling me.
yeah, I mean, this is all in the context of asking God to help us. And I mean, there's a part where Saint Francis he's actually done some hard work of figuring out what he needs in the moment when this crisis arises. This is what I need, and this is what I'm asking you for. But to actually have it, to actually follow through on it, to actually, that we will with God's help.
I also see it to say, don't worry. When you start doubting, don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay.
Well, and I think doubt is kind of the other side of faith, isn't it? I mean, it's because
We need to have it every once
Yeah.
in a while just to figure it out.
right.
And
I know I think we tend to almost demonize doubt, but I think it's kind of
It helps us
Can
go
be a
a
good
step
thing.
further.
yeah.
Mhm.
One of the things is the opposite of doubt is certainty.
Yeah.
Certainty is the killer,
Yeah.
because then it kills curiosity.
Right.
So,
All right,
I know
yeah.
doubt and faith are often replaced.
And it divides people too.
Help.
Yeah.
I mean, they can work together. Where there's doubt, faith doesn't necessarily mean replace doubt with faith, but let them work together. This is actually one of my favorites, so it's one of the ones I brought. So if anyone wants a closer look, this is where there is despair, hope. The picture shows a child very sad. You can't see the child's face because it's the head is bowed in despair. But the symbol for hope, looking up, and I thought, what could you look at? And I immediately thought of a kite, and that reminded me of the poem by Rifat Al-Arir, who was a Palestinian poet and teacher. He taught English, actually. He thought it was very important to know the language of, I won't say your enemies, but to know the language of the people who have such power over your lives as American tax dollars do over the Palestinian people. So, so in order to communicate, in order to spread seeds of understanding and peace. So he taught English, but he was assassinated, and his one of his poems, not the last he wrote, it was written years before his death, but one of his poems was "If I Must Die," because the Palestinians have been under threat for a long time, so he could have died at any time. And he wrote to his daughter, "If I must die, you must live." And the last line says, "If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale." So I put that on the tail of the kite. So what tales will our lives tell? Can we live messages that bring hope in times of despair, despair is more than sadness. Despair is losing the will to continue to struggle against the oppressions, and to continue to struggle for the things that you know are worth struggling for. So.
Actually, I was gonna say, one of the things that I learned from reading Antonio Gramsci was that he had a phrase where he said, You have to have a pessimism of the intellect and an optimism of the will, where you have to be like incredibly honest about the situation that you're in. You know, you can't have blind hope. You can't say like, oh, I hope for the Palestinian people. Okay, our tax dollars are funding their death.
Mhm.
So like you have to say like what's happening now to them is evil, but I have hope that through the work that I do, and through the work that my comrades do, and through the work that the Palestinian people do themselves every single day, that this can bring the change that they need.
Yeah. There are definitely signs of hope, even as things get bleaker. I mean, that's the paradox.
I'm gonna go through these slides
Continue.
quicker because I have a couple little videos I'd like us to see too. But I just think that Lucy did such a beautiful job with these.
Wow.
And I think it's inspiring to think that this is a way we can make a difference in our own community too, that she made these signs and you've had them up at various times.
Yeah, a couple times.
You're thinking of putting them up again.
I wanted to put them up yesterday, but my neighbors were out of town and I didn't want to put them in their yard. I know that they would be okay.
Yeah, but
still-
yeah, you'd want to
still,
request, yeah.
Still, so this one, just real quickly, I mean, it's self-explanatory, except the sunshine is actually the Arabic word for light. It says nur.
That's very cool.
So,
That's wonderful to know that.
yeah.
Where there's sadness, joy.
I
Oh,
don't want-
divine master, grant that I may not so much be consoled as to console.
Oh, divine master was too much to put behind science.
Yeah, but it's part of the prayer, so I just said.
Yeah, thank you.
To be understood as to understand. To be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. And,
And
but
it's okay. It's
but
okay.
just finish the prayer, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful prayer. I have thought I wanted to memorize it, and I haven't yet done that. I think this is a prayer I really think is worth memorizing and repeating to ourselves. So, so this next little video is, do you see our friend Rick Steves there? So Rick Steves is a travel guru, but I thought this was a really great little video that told about Assisi, Italy, and also tells about Francis. And so I want to share that with you.
An hour's drive to the east takes us to the neighboring state of Umbria, famous for the town of Assisi and its beloved Saint Francis, who had a huge impact on the medieval church. The story of medieval Europe is the story of hard lives and a very religious world where people struggled and stressed about their relationship with God. Many thoughtful people entered monasteries and lived lives of quiet prayer and solitude in retreats like this. Around the year 1200, Francis, a simple friar from Assisi, was one such person. He retreated to this hermitage for the solitude, and it survives to this day with a handful of Franciscan friars living out his mission. Behind a little chapel, you'll find the tiny, dank cell where Francis himself would retire for private prayer. In this beautiful setting, you can almost imagine the much-loved saint preaching to the birds. Francis lived in the hill town of Assisi. While the Basilica of St. Francis, where he's buried, dominates the town, we'll visit that later. His story starts here, in the valley below, in the Church of St. Mary of the Angels. It's a grandiose Baroque church. But stepping inside, you realize it's built around a humble little chapel. As a young man, Francis was living in a way that attracted followers. He went to the Vatican in Rome, asked for the Pope's blessing to continue his work, and got it. Back in Assisi, he was given this fixer-upper chapel. This is the actual chapel that Francis and his first followers rebuilt. And it was here, in 1209, that he established the Franciscan order. Inside the chapel, pilgrims remember the very spot where Francis lived, worked, and died, and how, as it turned out, fixing up that little chapel was a metaphor for a church in need of reform. This chapel, so dwarfed by this enormous church, reflects the monumental impact this simple friar, a reformer well ahead of his time, had on Christendom. With his teaching, Francis challenged the decadence of church government. He took Jesus' message of non-materialism and simplicity seriously, challenging the wealthy and powerful around him. His slow down and smell God's roses teaching drew a huge following. Francis strove to be Christ-like. He taught by example, he lived without worldly goods and loved all of creation. A huge religious order grew out of his teachings, which were gradually embraced by the church. In 1939, Italy made Francis one of its patron saints, and in 2013, the newly elected Pope took his name, the first ever Pope Francis.
So, yeah, I just like that. I thought it was kind of a cool way to see a little bit more about Francis. So the other, in addition to the prayer of St. Francis, the Canticle of the Sun is also something that he's really known about. And I just love, if you read it, the way he sees all of creation in almost familial terms. So the highest, all-powerful, good Lord, yours are the praises, the glory, the honor, and all blessing. To you alone, the highest, do they belong, and no man is worthy to mention your name. Be praised, my Lord, through your creatures, especially Sir Brother Sun. Don't you love that? Sir Brother Sun, who brings the day, and you give light through him, and he is beautiful and radiant in all his splendor. Of you, the highest, he bears the likeness. Praise be to you, my Lord, through Sister Moon and the stars. In heaven, you form them clear and precious and beautiful. And so for me, too, I appreciate that living in 1200, he saw things in female terms, too, because, so Brother Sun, Sister Moon, and then, as you read through the prayer, Brother Wind, and through the clouds, and through Sister Water, through Brother Fire, through Sister Mother Earth. And so I think it's really beautiful. And so because we're out of time, I want to close with a musical version that I think of the Canticle of the Sun, which I think is just beautiful. And so.
The sun, the bringer of day, he carries the light of the Lord in his rays, the moon and the stars who light up the way unto your throne. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and all creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing to the glory of the Lord. Praise for the wind that blows through the trees. waters our fields and blesses our crops, so all the earth yields. From death unto life, her mystery revealed, springs forth in joy. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and all creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing, sing to the glory of the Lord. Praise for the earth who makes life to grow, the creatures you made to let your life show, the flowers and trees that help us to know the heart of love. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and all creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing, sing the glory of the Lord. Sing, sing to the glory of the Lord.
Yeah.
Very good,
Thank
Anne.
you, Joyce.
Thank you. Very well prepared.
After the wedding at 11:30 last night, we were texting at what, 10:30?
Good work.
I think Laura already switched over.
Okay,
I
okay.
think.
I
Okay.
did not, but I
Oh,
am
yeah,
gonna
Oh,
sorry.
now.
I didn't know.
So
Yeah.
thank you all. This was wonderful. I appreciate